It's the high school club.
Assuming that we've got the audio figured out here. Hi, my name is Glenn Case. I'm off camera. I'm listening on my phone because we've been having all sorts of issues with audio this evening. Okay, I think we're ready and rolling. Finally! Oh my goodness. Just got back from Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and that ended up making me want to play tonight. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I have had an unopened copy of this game, H.E.R.O, for the Commodore 64 for quite some time here. May not be able to be seen all that well based on the lighting in the room here. But it is unopened. There we go. I can see that it wasn't too bad there. It's unopened. I imagine that any market value that this had is about to drop significantly by opening it up. But it'll still have the case. It'll still have the manual. On the back, it says, by the way, trouble in the tunnels. Desperate miners trapped. Will these tunnels be their tombs? H.E.R.O. H.E.R.O is the hero's name. H.E.R.O is their last hope. His prop pack powers him into the mine shafts and peril. Zapped crazed creatures demolish dead ends with dynamite. Lethal challenges on all sides. Vile vermin. Oh, you know what we have here is alliteration here. Vile vermin, bubbling lava rivers, molten magma deposits, trailing tentacles, crushing walls. Timing its away at power and ammo, make your move. It's from 1984. It's unopened. Sounds like there's a cartridge in there. Let's find out if there's a cartridge in there. Oh, and also prove that this is very much a real Commodore 64 here. We're going to turn it off. Turn it on. And you can see the blue screen here that shows up. All right. And I do believe I'm going to use the Epix 500XJ joystick for this. I was not anticipate that I would be able to go for a world record on this, but the Commodore 64 version does not have the normal 1 million perfect score that you see on the other ones, the Atari and such. So this might be doable. Until another person realizes that there's not a score for this. Although this does not go for cheap. There it is. The real cartridge is very much in there. And a video game catalog that talks about for use with the Atari 2600, 5200 home computers, ColecoVision, and Intellivision systems. This is the winter and spring 1984 calendar of things coming out. There should be some real classics in there. All right, so without too much further ado, let's see if we can pop this into the cartridge slot here. In theory, turn it on, and we have one of the great Commodore 64 games, one of the great games of that era, really. I'm a fan. I have played it before, but I've never owned my own Commodore 64 copy. I've had the Atari one for years. So, let's switch it to the main thing that you should see instead of my ugly mug is going to be the game itself. And again, just for good measure, we will turn it off, turn it on. All right, so F1 to start. I'm going to hit F1. And let's see what we can do with this. Oh, man, this is already amazing. Oh, that was a bad start. Not gonna lie, that was a very silly life to lose, but I'm not gonna restart it. So my main goal for starters is going to be to see if I can get that 75,000 points, where back in the day, if I had gotten 75,000 points on this and taken a photograph of it and sent it off, I could have gotten a patch as was the case with a lot of Activision games of the era. Whole can that's there. Oh, come on. That was super silly again. I've lost 2 lives with things that were pretty simple that I shouldn't have lost there. I don't know if it's just me, but it does seem like this one may be intensifying a little quicker than the Atari version. I could definitely just be imagining that, though. It's been a while since I played the Atari one as well. Well, let's see what happens down here. Light fuse and get away. Definitely don't want to head to the left there. Oops. Ah, man, I was actually afraid of having that happen. And well, since we already lost a life there, might as well just do that. This isn't bad for a practice run, at least. Even if I do obtain the world record on this, I feel like it's going to be just temporary until someone realizes that there is a lower than perfect 1 million point score on this. Oh, I'm honestly shocked that didn't kill me. Because I feel like it should have. I feel like the placement of some of this is a little different than the Atari version, too. I don't remember a whole can coming out right there. It's not to say it wasn't there, but I certainly don't remember it being there. I would be curious to compare. Staying in this thus far. Come on now. Right. That's a really tight fit there. I'm sure there's worse in the game. It seems like there's going to end badly. No, that wasn't so bad, actually. I want to see if I can take that out. Oh, my goodness, that was too close for my liking. If I have another wall, I'm going to have to zap through it. Thankfully, I do not have another one. This is not a bad start. Well, it was a bad start, but I'm not going to make the most of it. I did speak to Metal Jesus briefly about this game. This is one of his favorites, as well as one of mine. Again, I grew up playing the Commodore version, but I never owned my own copy of it. And then I've had the Atari one, 2600 one, for quite a while. Oh, that was just a really super silly way to lose life as well. I feel like the physics might be a little bit different on this version too, as far as how quickly you drop. I may like it a little more even than the Atari version. Again, I'm speculating wildly at this point. I'm not doing like a side-by-side comparison just yet. But it feels different. I feel like I probably need to take that one out. My hand has taken me a number of times in the past. There's no exception. That's short little wall right there. We're probably coming up on the closing walls, and boy, those get me every time. Oh, see, that was just, again, I didn't have to do that, but there it was. 63,212. I'm going to go over to the computer and change that. That's the problem with being your own producer and everything, too, is that you got to go manually change the stuff yourself. We got 63,212. All right. Well, then. Let's see if we can improve upon that. I feel like less than halfway there, but, you know, ultimately I'll take it. Again, if you compare it to the Atari 2600 score that's out there, it's, I believe, 1 million even. So even if I do somehow get a world record on this, I really don't think it's going to stand for very long. Someone will see this like, oh, it's not 1 million points on the Commodore version? Well, let's change that. It'd be fun to have a world record on this, even just briefly, though. Oh, that's a great question. Any good pickups from Portland Retro Gaming Expo? H.E.R.O Masked Man asks. While I was walking around on Saturday, I asked myself, do I have any Holy Grail purchases that I really want to get? And the answer was yes, there was one. It was D2 for the Dreamcast, which is a sequel of D, and I succeeded in finding one. And I paid a little more than I would normally pay for such a thing, but it's been on my wish list for a good 5 years. One of them I'm definitely hoping to have on a future episode of Traverses. It's, from what I can tell, it's a fairly bizarre premise. Oh, cool. There you go. Good taste, you say. Yeah, no, and I can just go ahead and admit I paid $70 for it, which seems like fair market value if you compare what their price, what the price of it is on eBay. That seems to be about the going rate of it. Other than that, I had a coworker that was requesting to see if I could find a copy of Majora's Mask, not Majora's Mask, sorry, Ocarina of Time for N64 for a reasonable price, and I was able to find a copy for $25. So he'll be reimbursing me for that probably tomorrow. And he said, dude's legit one of my favorite developments. Shame he died. I didn't know he died. Oh my goodness, that is very sad news. Yeah, he was interesting at the very least. That's a serious shame. That shows how much I know. But I genuinely loved D when it came out on the PlayStation and the Saturn. I think we played it on the Saturn first. With Laura. Laura. Well, that is, that's a bummer. But having said that, there was also a copy of Illbleed that they had for the same one had Illbleed for the Dreamcast for about $100, and I originally had a original copy of that I traded off, and boy, I didn't realize how much it was worth at the time. Too close to the blast. Oh yeah, heart failure brought on by hypertension shortly after I found a copy of this Dreamcast game you made called Real Sound. I'm actually very curious what Real Sound is. Oh, wait a minute. I think I had read something about the title. I don't recall the premise, but it did seem like it was a fascinating premise. I just don't remember what the premise was. But it seemed like was it or was it not a game made specifically for blind people? Because I want to say it was a video game for blind people, which totally fascinating premise if so. Boy, those always make me so scared there. Well, now I especially want to make sure that my friends on Traverse end up playing D2 this Halloween season. Or at least maybe just right after it. There's a Saturn game for blind people. They released a version for the Dreamcast with graphics, came bundled with a packet of herb seeds. Wow! What a unique, you know, that sounds very much like the way that guy was. He was very, very thinking outside of the box, it would seem. It's fantastic. It's very much a shame that we won't be getting any new titles from him. Well, I'm all the more happy that I was able to end up picking up a copy of that then. But I kept most of the rest of my video game-based purchases to a bare minimum. We bought some art this time because there is an artist that Rachel and I met in Spokane at a Comic-Con that they have here called Lilac City Comic-Con. And a lot of her original art tends to feature Shy Guys from you know, Mario series. And Rach is a big fan of the Shy Guys, so I purchased an original piece that was a combination of Shy Guy and Van Gogh. Oh, jeez, let's just lose 2 in a row right there. That was awesome. Oh my goodness, there was a minigame compilation he made for the 3DO called Short Warp, contained packaged with a free condom. Boy, oh boy, that's amazing. Yeah, I want to say that this game that I'm playing right now, H.E.R.O, has different timing than it is from the Atari, which makes sense. It's different, you know, different systems. But it does seem like the reaction time from when I press up to when I actually rise is a little different timing-wise. Like, if you're used to the Atari version on this could throw a person off. And I think I like it better on the Commodore. No, other than that, at Portland Retro Gaming Expo, so we bought some art. I'm trying to remember her last name, but the artist's first name is Katie. I can look it up, and I should look it up after I lose all of my lives here, because she is a fun artist that is worth your time. She draws some great mashup style concepts. One of my favorites that I purchased was one of dogs playing poker, and it's like the Duck Hunt dog and a bunch of famous video game dogs, including Parappa the Rapper, who's also in there. Hey, I've got enough for my Activision patch. All right, getting there. Yeah, I probably could have ended up getting a good amount of money by just selling this unopened. But where I bought it secondhand, I wouldn't have known for sure if there really was a game inside of it anyway. But there was, and there is. Oh, I was afraid of that. Yet I did it anyway. In order to get the perfect score, I wonder if you have to take out almost everything. I can't imagine that you do, though, because there's some enemies in this game that if you take them out, it would have to be with your body. And there wouldn't be enough extra lives for that, I wouldn't think. Probably just have to be amazing at it. This. Yeah, oh, jeez, that's too close. I'll take it. Wasn't pretty, but I'll take it. Yeah, there was a boxed copy of Summer Games for the Atari 2600 too. That was one of the other ones I was pleased to pick up. And meeting Walter Day was pretty fun. I told him about my E.T. world record, and he was talking about the possibility of making a trading card based on me, which I thought was pretty cool. We will see what happens with that. And I was offering him legit music advice as well. Having seen The King of Kong, I know he had an interest in it. He may not be everyone's cup of tea, but on the same notion, if he wants to put his stuff out there, there's no reason he shouldn't be able to do that. So, you might hear some Walter Day recordings in the future. Okay, so there you go. That was pretty good. Oh, I'm gonna have to blast through it with my laser eyes. I have next to no power. Of course, sure. That'll work. No extra bonus there. Well, I'm doing better this time. Oh, I hate these. Not as much as I hate the closing walls that I believe are probably coming up, though. Here it is. I could never time that quite right. 96,143, that run. We're getting there. And as I believe I was starting to say, Howard Scott Warshaw, I happened to notice him out over in the arcade area. And I challenged him to a game of Robotron 2084 for the second time, where the last time was 4 years ago at Portland Retro Gaming Expo. He destroyed me then, and he destroyed me again this time. And never been happier to lose a game than to the creator of E.T. and H.E.R.O's Revenge. He's a very, very charismatic guy. Very nice in person. Again, as was Walter Day. And I need to look up Katie's last name. I'm really, really super terrible with names. So apologies to Katie for not remembering that right off the bat. Alright, let's see what we got here. Another fun thing that did happen at Portland Retro Gaming Expo is I feel like I got way better at the arcade game Tempest than I have been in previous years. Alright. Come on now. There we go. It's beautiful. The extra points here and there always helps. Come on now. Down. Down. There you go. There we go. H.E.R.O, I think, is the artist. And yeah, she has some really interesting and cool paintings and prints that she offers for reasonable enough prices. I was especially struck by how much I figured Rach would end up liking it, and I was not wrong. Again, partially remembering that we met her at Lilac City Comic Con, and Rach was impressed then, and I think that her art's even improved since then. Oh, that was too close. There we go. It's down. There you go. Take the points for that. Yeah, I should have known. Should have known. There we go. Let's see if I can just get past 100,000 this time. It seems like there's going to be a way that I can really know how long before I press up so I don't fall in the drink there. And it seems like, at least in later levels too, it's going to be critical to understand that. Oh, my goodness gracious, let's not get that close, please. Down. Come on now, down. This. Come on now, drop. Yeah. What I'm doing is counting it as like 1, 2, 1, 2. Like on the second that I'm dropping is when I need to probably press up on the controller to not fall in the drain. Yeah, that would have been bad. Red walls, by the way, at this point hurt. Hurt to the touch. And that is bad. Yeah. Come on now, let's go right down the center. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. It's not long after you let go and you see yourself falling that you almost immediately need to start thinking about pressing up to not fall into the water. Sweet. Oh, hi, Baron Frostchild. Thank you for saying hi. I opened up this game, and it was a Commodore 64 game that had never been opened. This is honestly one of the best games of this era, of Activision games especially. And Metal Jesus agrees with me. Or I suppose I could say that I agree with Metal Jesus. He's put that opinion out there. Met him very briefly as well. So there's this guy named Metal Jesus Rocks that's got a YouTube channel that is fairly popular. At the very least, hundreds of thousands of views per video, if not millions in some cases. And he especially focuses on retro games. He's got long hair that's probably even longer than mine. And he's got some opinions, and he knows about some even more obscure titles and consoles than I do. Definitely knows his stuff. And he's one of those folks that when I shared a picture with having met him at Portland Retro Gaming Expo this weekend briefly, there were a number of folks that thought that that was especially cool because they follow his channel. Well, hell. No, he does not have the world record in the worst game ever made, so there is that. Did you ever see King of Kong, Jeff? Oh, I'm just going to keep falling in the water now. Because if you did see King of Kong, there is Walter... Okay, sorry that... Yeah, you've not seen it. Well, one of the guys from back at Twin Galaxies, from back in the day, is this guy named Walter Day, who is a referee of sorts. He actually wears a referee outfit to events like he did this time. And he was one of... yes, there is that whole thing about Billy Mitchell as well. Well, Walter Day is featured heavily in that documentary, and he was at Portland Retro Gaming Expo. And when I told him about my E2 world record, he said that I should go find a copy of the game at the expo somewhere and bring it back, and we would get a picture together, and that I would potentially get a trading card. So there would be potentially a Glenn Case trading card, a Walter Day Glenn Case trading card for to commemorate my E.T. score. May not be the first time that I've ever, yeah, at least in the case of Walter Day, yes it is. He formed Twin Galaxies when it first started. He was one of the people that first started it. Oh yeah, Billy Mitchell, you can bet that he definitely had... Yeah, the documentary I think you would actually find to be fascinating. The more that you saw about Billy Mitchell and Todd Rogers and everything, at the very least you'd be very entertained. Billy Mitchell and his hot sauce. Hey, how's it going, Brucey? I am doing well. Just been focusing on some other stuff, but yeah, I'm back on here. I think partially inspired after going to Portland Retro Gaming Expo this weekend. Just having come home from that, is I played video games for a good portion of the weekend. I did not know Joust Pinball was a thing until this weekend. That was amazing. I thought that it was some new version of a retro thing. It turns out it was made in the 80s. I made it through. Oh my goodness. That part normally gives me such trouble. I cannot believe I made it through that. I'm definitely going to go on the other side here. A sexual tyrannosaur? Yeah, that sounds like Billy Mitchell. What on earth is even happening here? Nope. That was a waste. Okay, so this might be amongst the best I've ever done on this game, because I don't necessarily recall there being a spot like what I just saw. Because I normally do completely get vaporized by that wall. So I'm already thrilled with this. Well, of course, now I gotta get through this. Oh, you were referring to me being the sexual Tyrannosaur. Gotcha. Yeah, no, Joust Pinball, for what it's worth. 2-player pinball simultaneous. At different ends of the table. So when you are shooting the pinballs back across the playing field, it's going to your opponent that's on the other side, where they're having to juggle like 4 or 5 pinballs at the same time while you may have 1 or 2. It's super fun. And it was made in like 1983, and it didn't do well, so it's super rare. I think they said less than 500 of them made. So the fact that they had a functioning one at Portland Retro Gaming Expo this weekend was really a treat. I assumed new pinball machine made on an old license. No, it's originally from the 80s. And such a great concept that it's really a shame that it didn't do better. Yeah, PvP pinball. That's exactly what it was. Never seen anything remotely like it. Well, you have a lovely rest of the evening too, and maybe I'll see you at work tomorrow, maybe not. Oh, here we go again with this crap. All right, 102,915. I think I'm starting to get the right idea here, hopefully. I'm not going to spend all night at this or anything, but I may give it a couple more goes. 9:15. All right. Take a quick swig of this here. And there was plenty of just really fun things happening, of course, at Portland Retro Gaming Expo. There's the Tetris World Championships, of course. I didn't pay too much attention to what was going on with that, but it's a crowd pleaser. Oh, this looks crazy, the game? It's a classic Activision game for the Commodore 64 in this case, but they made it for multiple systems. Yeah, no, it's, I love this. It's very fast-paced. Obviously, you've got a power meter that you have to, it's essentially just a timer that you're racing against that. You have limited bombs. And clearly only one joystick button to work with as well, so to drop a bomb, you have to hit down and run away. 16-year-old kid beat the 7-time champ. Yes, I saw the highlights after the fact. I thought that was really cool. That means, you know, the 7-time champ's probably going to bring it even harder next year. 4 years ago, I tried the Tetris Championships, and I did so poorly that I didn't bother this year. But I was roped into doing a Mario Kart Double Dash thing this year, because there was that was happening. It was 16 players. I did not have a teammate there. Sadly, Rachel did not go with me this year. And that's too bad, because in Double Dash, she would tend to throw and I would steer. We actually became a very good team playing Double Dash. And Rach doesn't play a lot of video games. But I got paired up with a gentleman who did a pretty good job. But we definitely did not place top 3 in our group. With 8 teams, 16 players. It was a lot of fun, though. And that was Friday, that was the first day. Come on now, drop. And there was a big announcement about an Intellivision console that was such a long line that I did not bother trying to get in. I wanted to get in there, but I had been in a previous panel, the Howard Scott Warshaw panel, and so I opted out. I didn't go to that, figuring there will probably be a video about it, and sure enough, there was and is. The new Intellivision console, I think, looks very intriguing. They're going to be going for a completely different market, maybe a little bit retro and a little bit more like the Nintendo market in a way where what Nintendo was known for before, at least. Because everything, there will be no T for teen or M mature rated content. They're going strictly like old school and like family style stuff, figuring it's a niche market that, you know, parents can trust or whatever. But more to the point is that they're keeping it. To me, it's an interesting for a number of different reasons. The titles are, I believe they said anywhere from like $3 to $8 per title is all they'll be charging. Bluetooth wireless controllers, but it's made to look like the classic Intellivision. They're going to reimagine a number of classic Intellivision, Atari, and Imagic titles. So like Super Burger Time, for example, is one of the ones that I saw that I thought that was an interesting one that they would do. Your phone will be, for certain games, will work as a controller. If you need extra controllers, you can use a smartphone as one of your controllers. Touch screen where it would have had overlays before. Like I've seen a lot. Obviously, a lot of these classic retro consoles have done pretty good, but it seems to me that they're doing enough with a reasonable price point too. It's not. It's like in the $170 range is what they're aiming for. They're doing enough things differently that I feel like it could work. Oh, and no DLC. Like they're not going to have any DLC in any of the titles. When you buy it, you have the full product. It was almost like they were taking notes about some of the things that people find annoying and say, yeah, well, we're not going to do that. And I feel like there's room in the market for something like that because it's not a niche that's being filled all that much. With the possible exception of the Atari box, which still, like, God knows what that whole thing's going to end up turning into. Wow, that was just bad timing on my part. Yeah, there we go. That was good. Yeah! Alright, 6. And yes, red walls hurt if you touch them. Oh, and the ridiculous thing that I was doing at Portland Retro Gaming Expo was buying cheap Atari games and Intellivision games just because I wanted to play them. I was originally planning on donating them, and then I forgot to do that. So I have backup bonus copies of Burger Time, Space Battle, Yar's Revenge, and I bought that copy of E.T. so I could get that picture with Walter Day. And potentially have a trading card made based on me to commemorate my E.T. World Score. Nope, I should not have done that. I should have known better than to do what I just did right there. That was just poor decision on my part right there. So yeah, that Intellivision announcement was pretty cool. They had some sort of magnetic Pong-based devices that I thought was a very interesting thing. The physics don't work exactly like you would imagine it would, but it's at the very least an intriguing concept. I keep saying that things are intriguing concepts, but it was. We got 80,000 plus. And the Tempest machine that they had there, what I specifically learned that I'd never realized was that when you get to the second set of levels, they introduce a character, a opponent that shocks the maze that you're playing on. Like the playing field gets shocked every couple seconds. I never realized that there was a character that does that. And where it then becomes crucial to not move in those spots to one of the areas that have been shocked, because otherwise, yeah, you're dead, because part of the playing field's gone every time that it shocks. So it's very much like a rhythm sort of thing that you got to do in a game that's already frantic and crazy. I was intrigued by that, to say the least. It's funny how a person can still learn strategies years later for some of these things. Yeah. Ah, come on. There we go. I don't even blame the controller on that point. It's me probably just not being precise enough. I feel like this is probably not the right way to go. And then I do that. Alright. That's just... Oh my goodness, no. Let's not do that. Please. I think that keeps fooling me. On level 13, I've got to remember not to go down the left side. Not that I'll actually remember that, but I really should remember that next time. It says, would this classify to use the retro Twitch tag? I think that actually this would still count as retro, and I probably should tag it as such, truth be told. I usually use the retro tag when I'm streaming for Traverses, which is something we do every Thursday. And this fits that even more, especially where I'm just playing one game. Normally, I'm subjecting them to several different games during Traverses. And retros will be used for that reason, because it's not just one game. I would be smart to take a moment here and probably list it under retro momentarily. I don't like this. Okay, got lucky. Alright, I'm pretty sure this is the part that's gonna slay me again here. And I think what I've got to do is... when it's closed... Yeah, see, then I just dropped too far down. When it's closed is when I think I've got to run there. Drop down. Too late now, though. I lost a life to that this time. You know, you raise an exceptional point. I think I can edit it here momentarily, so perhaps I will do exactly that in a moment here. Once I've lost my last life. Right there. 100,683. I didn't do as good as my last run. But let's see if I can add the tag retro. And I thank you for the suggestion. Maybe there's even a Commodore 64 one or so. Oh, yeah, let's not do that. Let's adjust that there. Okay, changing channel. Pardon the delay. Let's say retro. Let's say Commodore if it allows it. No, of course there's another Commodore 64 one. That doesn't surprise me. C64? Nah, we're just gonna stick with retro for right now. Okay, so now retro should be added. Thank you very much for the suggestion. Is that seriously Fat Kid for Life? Because that's an amazing handle. Oh, Harley. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, thank you, Harley. That's a good suggestion. Fat Kid for Life. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's the only way that I tag Traverse's videos, because normally instead of, like right now I'm doing this for High Score Club, I play one game and I focus on it. Yes, the power bar does go down. It's basically a timer. If I don't move, it still drops. Still very much drops. Oh, okay, I'm gonna redo that. F1, can I do that run stop? How do is there a button that I can hit to, well, I guess I can pull this one. Because that's a bad enough start that I feel like I'm wasting my time if there is probably a button that I can just, or, there you go. I'm gonna be that guy. F1. So very much resource management. There you go. Yeah, this entire game. It's a race against the clock. It's not using up too many bombs, because you get bonuses for all of those bombs that are left over. And I believe, by the way, H.E.R.O is Helicopter Emergency Rescue Operation, is what it is. But on the back of the box art, I opened up this copy of the game that had never been opened since 1984 when it was released. And on the back of this, I never realized it says Rod H.E.R.O is their last hope. So they also made it his name. Rod H.E.R.O. Because of course his name is Rod. Rod. Truth be told, I never realized he had a name. I've owned the game on the Atari for a number of years. Did not know he had a name. Didn't have the instruction manual. Right? Yeah, it is pretty much a porn star name, too. It's like he's ashamed that he does good deeds. And so he just, normally people hide their name because of porn. He hides his name because he doesn't want anyone knowing that he does good things. That's like a mask that he's wearing right there, too. Just, you know. Doesn't want people getting a good impression of him. What's your name? Rod H.E.R.O. Like his actual name is Rod too. He screwed up with that. Gave his first name where he didn't mean to. This is Rod H.E.R.O's backstory. I don't know. Maybe there actually is a written backstory that's in the manual. I don't know. Oh, I also got a brief moment to shake hands with David Crane, who created Pitfall, Pitfall 2, and A Boy and His Blob, among other games. Super nice guy. Just happened to see him in the back, actually, at the Howard Scott Warshaw thing. And I said, David Crane? He said, yeah, and I thanked him for making some of the most amazing games ever made. And for whatever reason, it didn't occur to me to ask to get a picture taken with him. Now, I didn't mention the David Crane part of it. I definitely met Howard Scott Warshaw again, though. And I took a picture of that. And I met Walter Day, who is the referee, the gentleman who came up with Twin Galaxies. But David Crane, I did not take a picture with. Rob Zadibble, I did not take a picture with. But he made some pretty good games, too, and is generally a pretty funny guy. Oh, Pitfall being an awful game? Boy, that's... I don't know. Super Pitfall is an awful game. Super Pitfall for the Nintendo, if that's the one they were talking about, then yeah, that really, truly is an awful game. The first Pitfall for the Atari, you'd be hard-pressed to come up with many better games. We're talking, it's top 10. Pitfall 2 and Pitfall are both very close to a couple of the greatest games that were ever made for the Atari 2600. Yeah, I mean, like, the brilliance of Pitfall is when you hear David Crane talk about what he had to, really what you had to do on the Atari in general to generate games. It's amazing what they were able to accomplish. Because essentially it had to draw everything on the screen. Like, I can't remember the specs of like why it is the way that it is, but everything had to be redrawn every time. There was like no sprite memory on an Atari, where every frame it had to be redrawn. You know, there was something that would keep track of where something was, but it wasn't something where you had one solid thing that just moved around the screen so much as it had to be redrawn every frame. You talked to the guy who helped release the first 3 Xboxes and worked on Half-Life? That's pretty cool. Were you at Portland Retro Gaming Expo this time? Or was that just like a different occurrence, something different? Oh, he came to Gonzaga. That's cool. I think some of these game developers have fascinating stories. There's Howard Scott Warshaw, again, the guy who made Yar's Revenge and E.T., made a documentary called Once Upon Atari, where he talks about some of the stories of the developers. They were kind of a wild bunch. His daughter goes there and he came to talk with the CS. Well, that's really seriously cool. Can't beat that. Yeah, the history of video games in general is a fascinating topic to me, especially when you see the amount of backstabbing and like weird stuff that happened behind the scenes for things to come out the way that they did. Like, bits of it are boring, obviously, but there's plenty that's not. Oh yeah, totally agree. Totally agree that the game design as a whole is a huge and crazy complicated system. And especially with ones like the Atari, it's just amazing that they were able to come up with anything at all. Especially in the case of Howard Scott Warshaw, with E.T. only being given 5 weeks, 5.5 weeks to complete a game. Because they wanted to get it out there for the holiday rush for Christmas. So yeah, it's broken, but it really almost has a right to be broken with the amount of time that they gave him. Yeah, it's only gotten easier in so many ways, yeah. Oh yeah, E.T. really is one of the worst games ever made. And it gets blamed for the video game crash of 1983. A lot of that is blamed on E.T., where where Atari expected it to be a really big, like a blockbuster of a game, and then it was not. And part of it is because, yeah, they only gave the guy 5.5 weeks to make the game. When he's given a reasonable schedule, Howard Scott Warshaw made Yars' Revenge, which is one of the greatest games ever made for the Atari. So he likes to joke that with having Yars' Revenge and E.T., that he has the greatest range of any developer on the Atari. Because, yeah, he did. He came up with one of the best for the system and one that's considered one of the worst games of all time. And nowadays, releasing broken games is acceptable and can just, charge, exactly. The whole thing of the ability to patch games. One of the things that Rob Zadibble mentioned to me was in one of his games where there was a bug that he could not find for the life of him, and it got shipped with the bug. He found it about a few months later, but by then, of course, it was too late, and back then, they just, it got released on time, no matter what. And you didn't release it with a bug, but like in that case, it got released with a bug. I believe he said it was the Atari 800 version of Missile Command. And because of the one fire button thing, just like the Atari 2600 version, there's only one base where you shoot missiles from. And there was something occasionally where your base will be struck and you're supposed to lose all of your missiles. And occasionally, he says it's an incredibly rare bug, but when it happens, this is 13. This is the one where I need to not go down that side. I remembered, thankfully. Good. He said that occasionally this one bug would strike, and like one pixel appeared in a place where instead of being out of ammo, you'd have like infinite ammo for the rest of that particular round. And you were supposed to be out of ammo, and instead you could just keep shooting. I believe that's what he said. But it was something where, infinite or not, you definitely were supposed to be out of ammo, and yet you were not. I imagine Rob Zadibble especially would have some really great stories. He seems like the sort of guy that does not he doesn't suffer fools kindly, gladly, I should say, but it does not take a lot of crap, but like, clearly a very clever fella. He also made the Atari 5200 version of Missile Command, which might be one of the only acceptable games on that system with that controller. I almost got through it. Says, so on the E.T. situation, did the guy ever end up with a plan of where he wanted to go with E.T.? Yes, he absolutely did. So that's Howard Scott Warshaw. It's the guy that made Yars' Revenge and Raiders of the Lost Ark on the Atari as well, by the way. And what was funny about it, as he told it a few years ago in a panel that I filmed, the question that Steven Spielberg asked was, well, can we just make it like Pac-Man? Like, he wanted to make E.T. like Pac-Man. The thing about the E.T. game that is considered, again, one of the worst games ever, is it's actually, for the Atari especially, an incredibly interesting, complex design. It's essentially this cube-shaped world, where on the top half of the cube, if you think of it as like a six-sided die, and on the top of said world is a forest where you get dropped off, and where, when you phone home successfully, it's where the spaceship comes to pick you up. On the bottom half of it is where the scientist and the detective come from. It's their home base, and it's E.T. and Elliot's home base. And then what we have around that is 4 areas of like forest area where you can fall into pits all the time, and that's where the problem arises. It's way too easy to keep falling back into those pits. You will get out of a pit, and if any part of you is touching one of those pits, you will fall right back in the pit. And it doesn't. I think it tried in some ways to accomplish too much. It's an incredibly complex title, especially. It may be one of the most complex titles for the Atari 2600. I don't think I would be going out on a limb to say that, because the amount of things, like Howard Howard Scott Warshaw in Raiders of the Lost Ark for the Atari created an inventory system. We're talking about a controller that only has one button. And he created an inventory system by using the second controller to switch between your items in your inventory and to drop items in your inventory. Like, there was no one thinking to do that sort of a thing when he did that. And maybe for good reason, I don't know. But there it is. But I definitely think the E.T. gets a bad rap. Oh, I was like, why can't I drop the bomb? The key that will make you sink or swim in a game of E.T. is finding the place to phone home from. Because it shows up in a random spot on one of those 6 sides of the cube that I was talking about. It can't end up in a pit, but outside of that, it's anything goes as far as where it ends up. Yeah, I'm gonna die before I can do anything with this. I was curious about what would happen with see, that's why. You can blow up a wall, and it turns out that you shouldn't have blown up the wall. Well, this one, it's going to be a wall or a wall. I have to start making decisions about which walls to blow up and which ones to not blow up. Okay, can I get by without blowing a wall? Yep, sure can, and I should. Okay, gotta be smart about it now. Which walls to blow up, which ones to not. Yeah, you should look into E.T. more. It's my world record high score on that is on YouTube. It took me 8.5 hours of gameplay. And, yeah, it's, you can, I imagine, if nothing else, you can learn a lot from that. Howard Scott Warshaw also threw Easter eggs in all of his games. That's, maybe another note of interest there. 114,799. And Watch Mojo lists my ET world record as the 3rd most unbreakable video game world record. I don't know that I agree with that, but I would say that if it's unbreakable, it's mostly because no one would want to go after that one. No one would want to have to play that game for 8.5 hours in order to go after it. But to me, that's the whole reason I went after it in the first place, is I thought, hey, how funny would it be to go for the best score on the worst game? That's where it all started. And then I met Howard 4 years ago and thought he was cool and thought, you know, why don't I go for the world record on his good game, too? And for a while, I had it. H.E.R.O's Revenge, it took me about 8 hours to beat that world record. And then someone saw my video of my H.E.R.O's Revenge world record, and they ended up going after it, and they succeeded in beating mine. I have considered going back after it, and I might do that sometime in the future. Maybe soon. But again, I would have to make sure that I had 8-9 hours set aside in order to just do nothing but play H.E.R.O's Revenge that day. That becomes the problem now too, is just having the time set aside for that. And good night to you as well. Thanks for stopping in and saying things. Drop. Drop. Go. Adjust this to where I can see the screen over here. So I know that I'm going for 154,000 points. 154,831. Oh, and I ran right into a wall with my controller. That was awesome. Nice, unnecessary loss of a life for no good reason there. That was beautiful. I'll roll with it. That one's tough right there because you don't get a lot of room to run around. These 50 points add up, though. Clearly, the main thing is just getting past the level. Preferably with a good amount of time left. No extra for the bombs that time, but you know. No. No! This is not going to end well, I don't think. I don't like that. Ah, so close. That was lame. Go. Make sure you actually set the bomb up. Yeah. Alright, so I need another good, let's just say 60,000. This is 13. This is the one where I believe I do not want to head to the left. That was awful. Really? Come on now. Yeah. Yeah. I really had to take that one out. Fantastic. Yeah. And then I did that. That was just beautiful. Like you succeed in getting past the area that's been messing you up, and then you end up losing a life anyway. Awesome. No. There we go. That was beautiful. I'll take the extra life. Nope. Alright, so let's see what this, where's this lead? It's bad things. Alright. Where's this lead? It's not bad things. So do not waste a bomb. Where's this lead? It's not bad things. That does, though. Get your timing right. Oh my goodness, I may have actually survived it that time. What I'm starting to do with that is when it's counterintuitive, but it's when the, let's call them gates at that point, when, you know, when the walls start closing in, is when I let go and let myself drop. which is counterintuitive because you would think that you want to go when they're closed, because by the time you drop, they'll be open and safe. But it's actually a little earlier than that because of the delay. That's ridiculous. All right, where's this lead? Nowhere good from the look of it. I need the one on the far right. That was a little too close for 50 points. I shouldn't have done that. I think, yeah, there's no way I'm going to get that one on the right. That's a little too tricky there, I think. Okay, so right here I'm going to closing. It's when it's first closing. Closing. Yeah, didn't quite get it right on the timing. The concept was there, though. Closing. There. Well, I don't know if it's foolproof, but I'm certainly seeing a heck of a lot more progress on it than I've ever had before. That right there, I feel like I need to take this guy out. Or that's going to happen. That was bad. 127,700. Definitely one of the best games of that I've had. I feel like I should get going to bed here shortly. But I'm seeing progress at the very least. 127,700. Okay. 127,700 F1. All right. Genuinely wonder if the levels eventually reset, and if that's one of the ways that a person can get a ridiculously high score in this game. That was a little too close. Certainly didn't like that. just enough room to not get blasted by a bomb. Close for my liking. Lunch. Ah, so close. Cigar. There you go. That seemed like it was actually almost too far away. In a way, I'm kind of surprised that that worked out. I can worry too much about the 50 points there. Nope. Oh man, that one has taken me out more than a couple times. I gotta remember on level 10, okay, and then I got rattled obviously. Oh my goodness, what a waste. Okay, so I'm just gonna let that happen. Level 10, if I just drop down that hole, it's going to probably kill me just about every time. Alright, let's try again. F1. Oh my goodness, that was a little bit too close for my liking. It worked out. But... Oh, what? I'm not trying to do that. Tell you what, I'm starting to lose my touch already. I'm thinking it may be close to calling it good for the night, just because I clearly starting to make more mistakes. That was just silly. No reason to lose that life. Okay. Yeah, we're just gonna do this. Alright, let's do this one last time for sure. I think this will be my last one this evening. I was clearly getting sloppy. To be right there within like 30,000 points with my best run at least of the current standing world record on this. To be that tantalizingly close and drop the ball like that. I prefer to not drop the ball on it. Be nice. I just let him reach out and touch me there. Okay. I said one more time, but let's make this one more time. Just that. I can do better. I know I can. I am losing steam though. F1. Alright. Get this right, please. Not enough to get my Activision patch. That, in and of itself, I'm happy with that. certainly not a good look. I'm starting to fall asleep. Not even because the game's boring, because it's certainly not. I'm just exhausted. And I got work in the morning, so I'm smart. I really do call this my last one. A little too close for my liking. Well, that was just super silly. Ah, I'm wasting lives here. This is not good. I think that previous score is going to be about the best I'm going to do tonight. Yeah, it's... I was going to say, I'm not giving up. That wasn't actually intentional. That's how... Yeah. I'm going to call it good now. After losing 2 lives like that, that's... I'm not going to do any better than 127,700 tonight. But maybe later. Thank you very much for watching. And until next time, whenever that may be, maybe sooner than later, based on how fun that was.